Hello and welcome to a conversation on the Daily Bern. I'm your host, Eric Miller. Today I'm joined by a true, bold, fiery, fighting progressive from the great state of Washington, Rebecca Parson. How you doing?
Hi, Eric. Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for taking a few minutes to chat with me. I understand we're a bit tight on time, so I'm going to try to go through a little bit quickly because I want to cover a lot of ground and definitely highlight the details of your candidacy and race. The election is on August 4th, so obviously you got a full calendar. So let's kind of jump into it. The first question is a bit of background, like what inspired you to run?
Well, Bernie was a big part of it, and so was AOC. I don't know if I would be running without Bernie's 2015 and 16 campaign and the fight for progressive causes. I've been involved with progressive activism for my whole life, from serving as a human rights observer in a Zapatista indigenous village in Mexico to co-leading in my local Indivisible group and being involved with tenants' rights organizing. But after the 2016 election, I wanted to move beyond. I'd always voted and paid attention, but I wanted to get more involved in the political process. And what I found as I looked around is, wow, this district has been Democratic for over half a century. Yet we have the 11th most conservative Democrat in the House representing us, who has taken over $3 million from corporate PACs, opposes the Green New Deal and Medicare for all. And when asked about it, as he has been for years by people across the district, just repeats Republican myths and talking points about these policies. And we really deserve better, because across the district, like, anybody who's watching in your part of the country as well, you're probably, your area, like the 6th district, we're struggling with opioid addiction, housing, lack of jobs, and healthcare, all really big problems here. So that's why I decided to run.
Right on. Yeah. And thanks for doing so. So the incumbent is Derek Kilmer is his name. And let's get into just some recent issues with him. He comes from McKinsey. You mentioned he's a corporate Democrat. I'm assuming he takes corporate PACs. You do not. He recently signed on the bill to cut Social Security. A Democrat advocating to cut Social Security. Can you talk about that?
So on June 1st, he signed on to a letter. He was the only Democrat in Washington state who joined with Republicans to sign on to a letter calling for Mitt Romney's Trust Act, which was an act that would cut Social Security. The national group Social Security Works, whose executive director I've had on live stream before, that group calls it a plot to gut Social Security behind closed doors. And what's interesting is the letter talks about how on June 1st it's saying, as the crisis recedes and the nation recovers, we really need to look at the federal deficit and really address the federal debt. And so we need to look at ways to do that. Well, then just yesterday, Representative Kilmer held a press conference with journalists saying, we're in an emergency right now. This isn't the time to be making cuts and to be worrying about the federal debt. I'm like, what changed, in the last 6 weeks? If you were paying attention to your constituents, you would know that we were all still in a crisis. On June 1st, I had friends who were not receiving the unemployment that they were owed by the state because the state froze everybody's payments. I mean, it's been a crisis, and it has been for months.
Yeah. And he's also part of what's called the New Democrat Coalition, which, I guess advocated for pay-go. And it's one of those fronts for essentially legalized bribery. Can you talk about that, his role in that?
Yeah, the New Democrat Coalition is, I believe, the largest caucus of Democrats in the House. And Representative Kilmer is chair of it. AOC's former opponent, Joe Crowley, was chair of it a couple cycles before Kilmer. So it kind of comes from that school of Democrats where it's very centrist and corporate. And as the chair, Representative Kilmer has a lot of power. He raises and disperses millions of dollars to other centrist Democrats to maintain their stranglehold on the Democratic Party and stop us progressives from getting the policies we want, which are the policies that the majority of Americans want and which would actually help people, like the Green New Deal, Medicare for all, a homes guarantee, a jobs guarantee, a UBI. All of these things. If you are looking, I know that as a progressive movement, we've had a lot of deep disappointments recently, past, 6 months or so. At the same time, people like Jamal Booker, Mondaire Jones have won. Charles Booker has gotten very close, Jamal Bowman. And if you're looking for, a Democrat who wields a lot of power but kind of flies under the radar, like you won't see him in a lot of national news, Derek Kilmer is really somebody we need to remove from office, because he is a main blocking point and choke point for actually getting progressive policies to happen. When Nancy Pelosi wants to know, hey, what do the centrist Democrats in Congress think? She calls up Derek Kilmer because he's their leader. And so he relays what they want to Nancy Pelosi. And he also belongs to the Problem Solvers Caucus, which is a conservative caucus made up of half Democrats, half Republicans, and it's literally funded by Republican billionaires. It's very conservative. And just, our district has been blue for over half a century. We do not deserve to be represented by somebody this conservative. He's just so out of step with the district, with the Democratic Party here, also with Washington State.
Right on. Yeah, I want to take just a quick look at your district because there's insane gerrymandering that happens around the country. So I always like to show the district so people can definitely be informed. So it's Washington 6. It's kind of the northwest of Washington State. Like you said, it's a solidly blue district, D+6. It went Obama, Trump. I'm curious about, it's almost a kind of peninsula in a way, right? So I wonder, can you talk about maybe industry that's there that might be impacted by Green New Deal and a just transition to get us there, safely for the workers?
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you brought up that map. I think you're the first person I've interviewed with who's done that, and I appreciate it because people then can get an idea of it. Like people who are just looking at that map, if you picture, the top northwesternmost corner where it says Nia Bay, that's the northwesternmost corner of the entire continental United States. It's a very remote, far-flung, beautiful area, but very underinvested in. The Makah Nation lives there, and they've lived there since time immemorial, for thousands of years before the Roman Empire even existed. And then there are other tribes that live along the coastline. They're being impacted by rising sea levels, and the Makah Nation in the northwestern corner there, they are in a tsunami zone, their school is. And Makah tribal members told me that due to lack of funding, if a tsunami comes, their evacuation plan is for the kids to just run a mile uphill. So that, try to outrun a tsunami, that's the evacuation plan. And the tsunami is going to get worse with rising sea levels. Yeah, it's awful. And then if you look at the part, it says Olympic National Park and Olympic National Forest, and kind of the whole inner Olympic Peninsula is beautiful wilderness. It used to be have a thriving timber industry, and that collapsed decades ago, and no jobs came in to replace it. The way that a friend of mine, Mariana Hopkins-Everson, who's running for state representative in my congressional district for her legislative district, she says if a community could have PTSD, this is what it would look like. And she's a nurse. And you look towards the bottom left where it says Aberdeen, that's where Kurt Cobain was from. It has a population of 16,000 and 1,000 homeless people.
Oh, wow.
About that, like 1 in 16 people are homeless. And it used to be a thriving town. And throughout the district, it's very interesting because then I'm over in Tacoma, which is in the, the southeastern corner of the district. It takes about 3-4 hours to drive from where I am to Nia Bay. You can't drive through the Olympic National Park and Forest. There are no roads to go around. So it's a very large district in terms of like driving time and distance. And in Tacoma, we have a lot of people working low-wage service jobs. They don't get benefits. Rents are rising because of people moving here from Seattle. So it's we would really benefit from stuff like the Green New Deal, and it's in the environmental policies, of course, but then also the jobs guarantee that's part of it. We would benefit from a housing guarantee to end homelessness in this district. And as you noted, there are some counties that went Obama-Trump. Interestingly, Grace Harbor County in the primary went for Bernie in 2016, and in the general went for Trump. And that was the first time that county had gone for Republican in the general in 90 years. And of course, centrists will say that means we need to become even more GOP white. But that's not, if people want, why would they go for, the non-fat when they could just have, the real thing? Like, why? If they want Republicans, they'll just go get Republicans. They'll vote for Republicans. What they want is populism. And Trump presented himself faithfully, in my opinion, as a populist. And so it was like they went for the real populist, Bernie, in the primary, and the fake populist in the general. What they want is populism, not corporate BS. And so this district is just really interesting. It also has a really radical history. There were IWW chapters in the district, all over the district, and International Workers of the World, for anybody not familiar, one of the most, if not the most radical unions in this country's history. There were strikes, radical strikes. The National Guard was sent in to break up the strikes. There was socialist organizing across the district. Like in Aberdeen, there's a picture of hundreds of socialists gathering together in 1911. It's really got a proud progressive and democratic socialist history. And so I'm really in my run for Congress, really drawing back and hearkening back from our traditions in this district of fighting for populist policies that will actually help the people.
Right on. Yeah, I had Mariana on about 2 weeks ago for her race as well. And one of the things that she mentioned, pull up a bit of your agenda as well, was universal broadband, especially in the pandemic with students being forced to, kind of homeschool and stuff like that. It accentuated the need for something like that, universal broadband. Can you talk about that in your district?
Yeah, we have a huge digital divide here between here in Seattle and here in other parts of the district. And I think the largest digital divide of any congressional district represented by a Democrat. And it's a huge problem, of course, with COVID and kids having to do schoolwork from home. If they don't have internet or it's too slow to get into the programs that the teachers in school are using, or to use Zoom, for example, then they're left out, and their learning and their education is impacted. And it affects all kinds of things as well, like job opportunities. It's like, especially on the Olympic Peninsula where the logging industry has collapsed. Maybe there could be remote job opportunities for a lot of people, but their internet isn't fast enough. So it's a huge barrier for economic and job opportunities.
Right on. Can you talk just a little bit more about maybe cite another example of Derek Kilmer's donors influencing a vote that negatively impacted the district in a very direct way? Can you cite an example of that?
Yeah, definitely. So recently he started talking a good game about Black Lives Matter and demilitarizing the police. But in 2014, he voted against demilitarizing the police. We have, Tacoma is a very gay-friendly city, and so are other parts of the district. I myself am LGBT, and I would be the first LGBT member of Congress from Washington State. And I've met with LGBT groups across the district. And in some areas, like the rural parts of the district, there might be a local student group that has 5 people, and they're the largest LGBT organization in their entire area, in their county. And so there are people who really need support, civil rights, they need their protections. Well, in 2007, when I was in college, I was wondering if I would ever have the chance to marry. Derek Kilmer was telling a reporter he didn't think we should redefine marriage. Now he tweets pictures of himself at gay pride, and it's just total flip-flopping. Another thing he did, he voted to fast-track the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which all the unions in the district were either against or, on the side of against, and, very, like, most of them were very outspoken about it. It would have taken jobs away. He voted for the USMCA, which is NAFTA 2.0. So there's a lot of policies where he's voted in ways that have harmed the district. And then in terms of the corporate money, we have the top 2 counties in the entire state for opioid-related deaths. And one of them, Colum County on the northern part of the Olympic Peninsula, over a 6-year period, they were prescribed 76 addictive pills per person per year for 6 years. And now they have one of the top 2 highest opioid-related death rates in the entire state. And why did that happen? Well, our attorney general is suing the companies who made it happen. They sent sales reps out to doctors and hospitals peddling these drugs, telling lies about them, saying they weren't addicted when they knew they were, and telling doctors they could just prescribe them, much, much more in a greater amount than is actually safe. Well, guess who Derek Kilmer takes money from? He takes money from pharmaceutical companies and from PHRMA, which is a lobbyist group for these companies that are currently getting sued for manufacturing the opioid epidemic. And he refuses to support Medicare for all. Medicare for all is the #1 thing that we could do to address the opioid epidemic, because the other county, Grace Harbor, with a very high opioid-related death rate, they don't have a single treatment facility in the county that takes Medicaid. So if we had Medicare for all and people could actually get treatment when they want it and need it, it would save their lives. Medicare for all is the #1 thing we can do for addiction, and he refuses to support it.
Right on. Yeah. Thanks for going into that. So August 4th is the election. I don't want to keep you. You're in the home stretch. I'm sure you got 100 things on your agenda. But the point you made is a great one. If you felt the gut punch of Charles Booker's loss, but also the high of Jamal Bowman and AOC's win, here's another race. It's a solidly blue district. There's no reason we shouldn't have a legit, uncorrupted progressive representing the people in that district. So I thank you for running, and people. I'm assuming people can get involved. They can donate. They can volunteer. What's the website?
Yeah, it's Rebecca for WA.com, and you can donate there. Whatever amount you can give helps, and $1 pays for 10 mailers to voters. So every donation helps. I don't take any corporate PAC money. You can also volunteer to phone bank. We have phone banks every day, sometimes multiple times a day. We've already made over 500,000 calls to voters in the district, but we need to make a lot more because we're not canvassing, of course. So you can do that from anywhere. If you've never done it, we'll give you all the training you need. And your personal phone number is not used. So it's totally safe, and you can do it from home. We'll give you all the training you need, and you'll be doing it in a Zoom room with other people around. So it's actually, a lot of people have fun doing it. We even have phone bank bingo. So sign up at the site to participate.
Right on. And it's RebeccaForWA.com. And also, you're awesome on Twitter. You're always posting. You're bold. I admire your Twitter presence. So go follow her on Twitter and spread the word there in any other way that you can. So, yeah. So thank you for taking the time, Rebecca. Good luck on the 4th. And, I will talk to you on the other side of your victory. Hopefully.
Well, thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you.